My next door neighbor just came and knocked on my door. When I went to the door, she is crying and she says she thinks her husband is dead.
So there's a lot of stuff coming out. So why should we believe you, who's told us at least 2 or 3 sets of lies?
What about Milton?
Milton got killed last night.
Okay. Now you know you've done some robberies, so your name gets brought up. Did you do this?
No.
Every conversation you have with Lou is recorded. We know about the planning, we know about the affair, and yet there's a possibility that if you did cooperate and provide a statement, you could not spend the rest of your life in prison and see your kids before you die.
It was just before 2 a.m. when a woman dressed only in a t-shirt, blood gushing from a cut on her head, started ringing the doorbell of her neighbor, desperate for help and in dire need of police.
911, location emergency.
Yes, my name is Carl Fight. My next door neighbor just came and knocked on my door. When I went to the door, she is crying and she says she thinks her husband is dead. She says the guy broke into the house. He has a gun. She's got blood on her face where he hit her with the gun.
Wait a second. So was this a domestic?
No, this was another guy.
Another guy broke into the house?
Another guy broke into the house, correct? Not your husband, just, no.
Killed my husband.
She says the guy that broke into the house killed her husband.
Okay, all right. Where's the other guy at right now?
Where is the other guy out?
He tied me up and hit me, and I just woke up with this all over, and now it's picked up.
I have no idea where the other guy is.
Okay,
now.
I'll tell you what, for your safety, just stay in the house and lock your door and keep her inside your house, okay?
Yes.
Join us as we look into a burglary gone wrong, a twisted tale that reached from the coast of North Carolina to Oregon and back again. What happened on that hot August night in Elizabeth City between a pawnbroker and a prowler? Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Milton Sawyer Jr., a husband, father, stepfather, and local businessman. Our story takes us to a small but historic town on the coast of North Carolina, just south of the big naval port of Norfolk, Virginia. A quiet, blue-collar town. Life is either quite pleasant there, or it can be a struggle. Quaint shops and a beautiful harbor bring visitors, but there's also an undercurrent around the edges where hard drugs and the addicts that depend on them lead a cycle of petty crimes and robberies. Milton and his wife Angel were living the good life there. They had a nice home and a blended family with a total of 7 kids between them. They had 2 daughters heading off to college in just days, and 5 other children out making their way in the world and doing well. The couple owned a store in town that bought and sold antiques, collectibles, gold, silver, whatever someone needed to get rid of in exchange for some cash. And Milton would purchase items of questionable provenance from addicts and ne'er-do-wells every now and then. Pawned items in the store would always be done with the proper paperwork for a pawnbroker, but he would now and then purchase items off-site without paperwork. It was a gray area, to say the least. Had that run afoul of him on this night?
She says the person had a mask on, correct? So, no, she doesn't know the person.
All right, can she tell if he's white or black?
Was he white or black? He was completely dressed in black.
All black?
She doesn't know.
Okay.
His head was completely covered in a mask, and he had on a... Said he was yelling and cussing a lot.
Okay.
He robbed their house, took all their money.
Okay, how many people? Just one person?
He was just one person, right? He didn't have anybody with him. Yes, that's correct, just one person. Were you both tied to the bed, or tied them up in the bathroom?
All right, and So she was tied up also?
Yes, she still got some of the tape and stuff on her hands.
The 911 operator asked Angel to leave the tape that was still on her arm as it was and not to touch it. The idea was to preserve any fingerprints or evidence that might still be on it. He then asks for more of the story.
Did the suspect shoot her husband, or do you think he's dead because of the injury?
No, her husband is the cause of the injury.
And
the husband's the one that's been injured. She says he won't wake up.
Okay.
She can't get him to wake up or anything like that. Because was your husband beaten as well?
I was out in the bedroom still, and he took him into the bathroom first. And I heard a lot of wrestling around him. And then I tried to get up. That's when he knocked me down, and I was like right there in our bedroom.
Police would arrive on the scene within minutes, cordoning off the area and beginning a search for the perpetrator. Angel was taken to a local hospital for treatment. Milton's lifeless body was found in the bathroom of the home, and it appeared that the home had been burglarized with a marked effort to steal cash, gold, and jewelry, items that the family's business generated on a regular basis. Milton and Angel were fairly well known throughout the community, and support was showered upon the family. Angel would come in the next morning, August the 3rd, to provide a statement to investigators and do what she could to tell them what had happened the night before. She's still visibly shaken by the night's events, and the investigators do what they can to put her at ease. They don't have an easy task here, balancing the need for details and still being sensitive to the victim.
How have you been? Have you been how have you been coping?
Can't eat, can't drink, can't sleep.
We're both sorry for your loss, and sorry you're having to go through all this, but we're doing everything we can. I know you talked with Aaron some, and there's some stuff that you've people are kind of talking about you and talking to you about, just personal stuff, and we're getting 5 times as much of that about basically everybody that ever shopped at the store. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff coming out. And some of it's not true, and some of it is true. But do you think you'd be okay to talk to us for a little while today? Like, are you going to be
I want to clear everything up.
Okay.
Everybody that knows us knows that we have a good relationship. We've had, like any marriage, things. I had a hard time our first year of dating, as you would ask. I found out later, after we were already engaged, that he had been with 2 other women. And it was, but we got through it, and it was hard. He was always very jealous. It was hard for him because he's always said, "You're so attractive, you could have anyone you want." And, I would always reassure him that I just wanted him.
She would go on to say that the two didn't go out much anymore because people often thought she was Milton's daughter rather than his wife. They explained that some of the information coming in from outside were rumors that there might have been some infidelity in the relationship on her part.
The only recent thing, though, was I had been in a car accident and I had gone to physical therapy. And I don't remember the exact time and dates, but my appointment had been canceled, so I forwarded him the voice message. And for whatever reason, he realized that it's a guy that I'm going to physical therapy with. And obviously, if you've ever been to physical therapy, you're in a room full of people. It's not like, but it bothered him. He looked him up on Facebook, sent me a screenshot of his picture, said he's attractive, and I said, "No, he's not. I'm attracted to you. I love you. I don't care about this guy." But he was still having a hard time with it. He would get angry every time we went, so I finally just quit. I said, "I'd rather be in pain physically than to make you suffer. If it was that important to you that I not go to physical therapy, I won't go."
Angel would go on to explain that she had only gone to 2 physical therapy sessions and that she thought the man's name was Isaac. Milton, however, had become jealous, and because of rumors, he had gotten very hurt about the whole situation. She assured investigators that the two had gotten past the situation, and on the evening before the incident, they had gone out shopping together.
We had been shopping for the girls' college stuff, and he got a call from Dylan. And Dylan wanted to meet at Hardee's with his girlfriend Robin, and bought a TV that obviously had been ripped out of the wall. It had, you could see that, it's in the truck if you want to see it, but I basically was upset with him. And I was crying the whole way home from Hardee's to our home. And I got out of the car, went inside, and he sent me a text, which you can look at, that says that he needs to start taking my advice, that he was sorry, that he loved me.
Dylan was a name the investigators had heard in connection with this case already. A jailhouse informant had called to let them know she had heard that Dylan Clark Hostetler was definitely involved in the robbery and murder. Dylan was a 24-year-old man who had a history of petty crimes in the town and was suspected in a series of burglaries and robberies. He was also a known heroin user. He was brought in under arrest after he was found to have cocaine in his possession. His girlfriend, 18-year-old Robin Carter, was also a heroin addict, and she was questioned as well.
So what happened today?
Then she said her parents called and said that the cops would come there. Everyone just wanted to talk to us. I guess it was something to do with Milton's way. Is that what it was?
What about Milton?
Milton got killed last night.
Okay. Well, did you talk to him?
No, we didn't get him. They picked me up before that.
Why didn't you call him?
She texted him on her phone. The guy said he was in a meeting that he would call back as soon as he got done.
Okay. So the reason that you're here right now is because they got cocaine on you, right?
I guess so.
I mean, that's what they called me and told me.
Well, I mean, it was the damn tiniest bit of cocaine in the world, man. Oh, shit.
Alright.
They told me that I was here to talk to him and see what was going on with it.
Okay, so tell me about Milton then.
I don't know anything about Milton. I don't know anything. Robin found out that day. Josh Creasy called her. Josh called her and told her that shit. And that's when I got on. I talked to my mom. My dad's been friends with Milton for a long time. I've dealt with Milton for a long time. And then my mom talked to Wendy. Wendy, I guess, used to work for Milton. My mom was friends with Wendy. And that's when I was finding out everything, like what happened. So I guess somebody broke into his house and like the kid, I guess it sounded like James told my Uncle James about it. He looked it up on the internet and it sounded like he got killed at his shop. But then Robin was saying there's something about that. Just a bunch of hearsay. I don't know anything about it, but I just know the fact that the man it happened last night.
Mm-hmm.
And we seen him last night.
Where at?
Met him at Hardee's. Robin got rid of a TV, just a little TV we had. I seen him last night. I've seen him all the time. I haven't known him for a long damn time, dude. Long damn time. He gave me $10 extra last night. So I can take it off next time I see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
where the TV come from?
this Robin's been had it for a long time. They said, "Oh shit, it wasn't worth anything." That's why he was nice and looked out for me. He gave me like $10 for the TV, got $20 altogether.
He would tell the investigators that Robin had dropped him off at his grandmother's house at about 8:30 that night. He lived there with her, his father, his uncle, and his brother. He said he slept that night on the living room floor while his uncle slept on a couch nearby. They could all vouch for him being there and that he had called Robin a number of times from the house phone and spoke with her off and on again until the early morning hours. Dylan would go on to say that he really didn't even know where Milton lived and had never met him at his house.
Man, you've done some robberies. So, your name gets brought up. Did you do this? You know from dealing with the court system that you're better off if you did it to come off of.
Man, so I feel you definitely know, man. I do not do that shit. I might be doing dope and shit, but I ain't a fucking murderer.
Well, I mean, you're a murderer, but you are a robber. I mean, that's what you do. And if you go to rob somebody and it ain't your fault, if you make a mistake, then you need to own up to it.
Yeah, I never did. I would not do that. I was home all night last night. I absolutely home. Robin was at her parents' house as well, and I did not. Absolutely did not do that.
I know that you're saying that you did not do that.
I did not have anything to do with it. Nothing. Didn't know about it until today. Until today, inside the food line, when she was talking to Josh Creasy on the phone, Josh is the one that told her that, and that's when it came up.
After Dylan explains the last time he had been in Milton's store, the officers get a bit more curious about the business relationship the two had developed. In the previous week, Dylan said he had taken a pair of Air Jordans and some designer shoes and a large knife to Milton.
How much money did you get for
15
that stuff?
$15.
For all that
Yeah,
stuff?
it wasn't nothing. Nothing deals with me with like whatever I got, man. Just cheap junk. Like, you know what I mean? Just nothing. It's $15.
Does he give you a receipt or anything, or do you just like
Me
when
and
you meet him at Hardy, does he just take the TV and give you $20?
Me
He
and
does no
Milton,
kind of.
yeah, me and Milton known each other forever, man. Yeah, that's how it is.
You never had any arguments or anything?
Never, ever, man. No, Milton's a good guy, man.
Robin would corroborate Dylan's story.
So, let's just tell me how your day went yesterday.
Just rode around really all day. Then about 8:30 is when we got up with Milton about the TV, and we met him at Hardee's around 8:30.
Okay.
So, and then I went. Where did I go after I left there? I went to 2nd Street, and then I went back to Dylan's house, but I had to be home because my mom was bitching at me to come home. So I was home. So I went to Dylan's house, dropped him off, then went back to my house. And it was probably like 9, I know exactly what time it was, like 9:20-ish when I got there because my daughter was still awake.
She would go on to illustrate that the two men had a good, if unusual, relationship. They then simply asked her who she might think had committed the crime.
Who do you think killed him?
I have no idea.
You don't think you have any idea?
No.
So when you said that that it's not like it never even crossed your mind that Dylan could have done something like that,
Yeah.
it's kind of his thing, right?
No.
Like, I mean, like he's done home invasions and robberies before.
I know, but when Dylan cares about somebody, he truly cares about somebody. He gives his heart to people he loves, and he loved Milton. I mean, he started crying when he found out Milton was passed away.
While Dylan and Robin were the last two people to have contact with Milton and Angel before the incident, investigators would be able to clear the young couple. Their alibis were easy to verify. Rumors kept swirling in the community, though, and numerous tips and stories came into the sheriff's office over the next couple of weeks. None of them resulted in anything, until they received a call from, of all places, Oregon, some 3,000 miles away. A man called and claimed to have been visited by someone who had admitted to killing Milton. An investigator from the sheriff's office and another from the State Bureau of Investigation immediately hopped on a flight and headed out to track down this lead. They would meet with a man who went by Louis. There was a very good reason to make the trip out to rural Rickrell, Oregon. Louis, a former youth pastor, said that he had been visited by someone whose name had come up before in the story of Milton and Angel Sawyer, Isaac Melcher. The physical therapist, it had been rumored, had an affair with Angel. The three men met at a local establishment, and they asked how he knew Isaac.
Isaac was in high school and was a tough kid. I spent a lot of time with him. Flew back to the East Coast for his wedding 17 years ago, and there were 4 other guys that graduated with him that traveled with me for the wedding. And that was probably, I think that was the last time I physically saw him. We kind of stayed in touch via Facebook and text and email through the years. My last contact with him was last summer when I was on the East Coast. We had some time, and I thought if he was close, we'd get together and visit. So when he texted me now, that was the first time that I can remember in 17 years that I've seen him. So.
All right, and then you received a text, which would have been on, do you remember what day that was?
It was on Thursday. Thursday the 9th, day after my birthday.
And then what did that text consist of?
The text more or less just said, hey, I'm in town. I'd like to visit with you. You got any time? He says, Louis, this is Isaac. I'm in Oregon visiting my mom. I was hoping maybe I could come by and see you for a short visit. I leave Saturday afternoon. And I didn't get that right away. I responded at 4:20. and just said I'd like to see him and hope it works out. And then he says, should I come by the house? And I said, just depends on what time. And he says, not sure. So then the next morning at 8:15, he sent me a text that said, will 10 o'clock work? And I said, yeah. So he came in right at 10 o'clock. And we met at the house.
There, at Louie's house, the two men met, and Isaac looked like he needed desperately to unburden something.
Well, it started with his mom. I met his mom, and she says she remembers me. I don't remember her at all. As she shared, she's got cancer, and Isaac was physically, you could tell he was beat. He was depressed, wouldn't look me in the eye. He gave me a half-hearted hug when I saw him. And so we went in the backyard, and I was expecting to hear from him about how great his kids were doing, because I've not met his kids, and only pictures, and it was obvious he wasn't there to talk about that. And then he said, well, I kind of need some advice. And that's when he said, I think I'm going to lose everything. And I kind of, okay, this is going a different direction. And we sat fairly close to each other because he wasn't talking very loud at all, and he was talking down to the ground. He was sitting with his head low like this. And there were times where I had to get fairly close to him to even hear what he was saying. And he just started telling the story, and it just kept getting worse and worse.
Isaac would admit to having an affair with Angel that started at the physical therapy office. He explained how the affair had grown over time, and then Milton had found out, and there had been a confrontation at the office. The affair became harder to maintain, but the two did.
They began, he said that they began plotting, in his words, get rid of, I remember that distinctly, to get rid of the old man. And they were going to use pills and make it look like an overdose. And they just couldn't decide on when that was going to happen or how that was going to happen. And, in the middle of this, I'm asking questions, trying to figure out if this is even really happening.
The next part, Louis said, took Isaac some time to get out, struggling to either find the words or the courage.
He went to the house, and I don't know how he got in. He must have had a key, or they don't lock doors there. I don't know. But he said he was in the hallway to the bedroom for about 10 minutes, trying to get up the courage to go in there and do what he was going to do. And while he was waiting and trying to figure it out, Angel came out of the bedroom to get a snack. And of course they quickly whispered to each other and came up with the plan. And then he marched in, put a gun to his head, tied him up, and he said all our plans went out the window because he was just so big. Those were his words. After a while, I had to let him kind of stew on it for a bit. He said, I drug him into the bathroom. In his words, I killed him. I asked him how he did it. It was the one time he looked me in the eye. And he said, you really want to know? And I said, well, yeah, I want to know. I want to know, did you kill him with the gun? Did you put a bullet in his head? That's what I was expecting him to say. And he said, no, I choked him. I got him in a chokehold. I was behind him, and I just choked him and squeezed his neck until he died.
The investigators had their man, but they only had the information secondhand. It was far from a legal confession from Isaac, but perhaps with Louis's assistance, they could get Isaac to either admit to the killing outright or at least acknowledge enough connections to bring him in. They arranged for Louis to get back in touch with Isaac, and over 3 phone calls, they were able to finally connect the dots. In the first call, Isaac asked if Louis had downloaded an app to his phone that would allow him to talk and text without leaving any records. While the app might have been secure, simply recording the conversations from the speaker setting was sufficient to overcome that. In the next call, Louis tries to get Isaac to get out from under all of this and just turn himself in.
You know, because this has consumed my thoughts since we've talked, and, you know, and I don't know, Isaac, if you're convinced that your time is limited, maybe you should just go in and tell your story and ask for leniency. I mean,
I know what you're saying. I do.
Okay.
I really do. And I have considered it.
And then he asks about Angel.
Have you been in contact with the other lady at all?
What day did I see you?
That was Friday.
Okay, I had contacted her like 2 days before that. And since then, no, and I plan to not. And that is, to be honest with you, one of the hardest things about things. You know, like I said, right now we are just trying to be thankful for the day we have. But my heart is still very much tied to her, and I am grieving right now because somehow I had told myself that I would make this work and I would be with her, and obviously that's not gonna happen.
There's little doubt anymore. It is time to go back across the country and round up not just Isaac, but Angel too. Isaac is arrested and brought in. Angel thinks she is being brought in for some additional information. Isaac, at first, declines to waive his Miranda rights and speak with the police, but then he decides to sign a document allowing them to discuss the case with him. He is advised, even after signing it, that he can still refuse to continue the questioning at any time.
So, what led us here has obviously been kind of fluid until the past week or so. Initially, there was a lot of rumors of affairs between yourself and Angel. Strictly that. Since then, that has been confirmed through various, Facebook records, Facebook messengers, phone records, Signal, all kinds of stuff. About a week ago is when it became a lot more clear when you talked to Louis. Every conversation you have with Louis was recorded. We know about the planning. We know about the affair. We know that initially it was supposed to be an overdose. We know about the phone you gave Angel. Angel's also being arrested, not based off entirely your statement to Louis. If during the interview with Angel, she pins it on you, it does not look good. I understand that there's been some conversation about the death penalty, which is not completely off the table, but just to give you a real world view, kind of like we talked about in the car, no one has been executed in North Carolina in over a decade, and it's not likely that they will ever be executed again. So even a death penalty sentence is just a long life sentence.
Looking down the barrel of a lifelong sentence, they make sure that Isaac is focused on what he can and can't do to help him in his own case.
And there's a possibility that if you did cooperate and provide a statement, that you could not spend the rest of your life in prison and see your kids before you die and hold them in person. So if this is something that, as you said to Louis, that you guys planned for months on end, just knowing, just in the brief conversations I've had with Angel, she's likely to cooperate when we talk to her.
No matter the strength of the appeal they made to the man, Isaac decides not to speak.
If you guys have said what you need to, I would like to be done with the conversation now.
Okay. All right.
In another part of the building, Angel has been brought in under the pretense to look at some jewelry and items to see if they were ones taken from her home on the night of the killing.
Originally, I want to have some jewelry and stuff I wanted to show you today. Was the plan. And talk to you about some other leads we had.
Okay.
And in the turn of events this morning, Isaac has been under arrest. He's come in this morning.
Good.
So
that's him?
Well, he's said a lot of stuff about you.
About me? What?
Well, that's what we need to talk about.
Okay.
And get straight. He's told us stuff about the affair, and then things about you wanting to leave Milton, and so we need to get all that out in the open.
And something else that we wanted to talk about is that there's we had an interaction a little over a week ago with your Facebook Messenger stuff.
Yes, sir.
And we've started to get some records back. Yes, and it appears that you guys have been in communication for a while through a variety of different apps, Facebook Messenger and Signal and stuff like that.
The investigators let her know that evidence is showing that the communications from Isaac were never really just a one-sided conversation, and that each day more deleted texts were being recovered from the various apps they used. She denies it, and they call her on it, but they give her a way out. Was she actually afraid of Isaac?
I think you're afraid of him.
I'm terrified of him because he's crazy.
Well, you should also be terrified of him because you saw him kill your husband.
I do not know that it was him or not him. He did not address me in any shape or form,
No,
and he was...
Let's get away from that.
Now I'll tell you why. Because the initial plan was to give Milton pills and vodka.
Still, she wants to hold on to her story, modifying it slightly to fit the new information.
I want to put you in the best light. You understand that, okay?
Yes.
I believe that you were there. You know you were there. You know he did it, without a doubt. Based on everything he's told us, there's nothing you can say to me that's going to make me believe anything else. I think this person came in your house, he was in love with you and would do anything to be with you, including kill Milton.
But I didn't want to be with him.
I understand that. But if he's this obsessed with you, that he would do this, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't tell him no?
I didn't.
You need to put yourself in front of this, because right now he's trying to throw you under the bus. You understand that?
He has told us everything.
Yes, if you're afraid of him and he's done all this stuff and you knew about it, but you're just afraid of him, then now's the time. He is locked up in handcuffs downstairs right now. He is not going to come after you. But you need to look out for you. And that means you're going to have to tell us exactly what the deal was.
She reiterates that she was still in love with Milton and jumps back to the night of the killing, this time telling a slightly different story.
And when he came in, it did not click with me, honestly, who it was, because it happened so fast until he was on top of Milton, and I was begging him to please stop. I love my husband, I want to be with him, please stop. And that's when you put the gun in my head, and he said, shut the fuck up, bitch. This is gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I will never be with you. I will never be with you. You're terrifying me. I hate you. All of those things. But I do not want, I am terrified of him. I have been for months. That's why I started sharing everything with Milton.
Over the next half hour, the investigators delve back into the relationship between Angel and Isaac, letting her know that they know there was more than just a couple of sexual encounters between the two. She pleads her innocence and says that it had been months since the two had been together. They go back to asking about the night of the killing.
So, when you open the door that night and he's standing there, he tells us that when you came out that he has a conversation with you before he goes in the room.
No, that is a lie. I swear to you that is a lie. I opened the door and the door pushed open like this. And he immediately started screaming and yelling and cussing, and I had no idea it was
And
even
how was
him.
he really? Was he really dressed in black? Was he just himself?
He was all
was
in
he like
black.
normal?
Nope, he was all in black, right down to the shoes. He had a mask on that was a dark gray. You could not see anything. That is the truth. When he came in the room, he was cussing and screaming, get down on the floor, no one's gonna get hurt as long as you cooperate. He said, I know you're the #1 gold buyer in Elizabeth City. He said all of those things. He said he was gonna, he just basically said, I want all your money, your jewelry, your, all that stuff.
The investigators are beginning to point out the holes in her story, but they let her spin it out some more.
And when you said that he had a conversation with you about what you were going to tell the police, what did he tell you to tell us?
That basically someone had broken in and that they stole the stuff, which is, what he really did do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I said, like I said, up until that point. And, I even have written a letter already in my Bible that, I'm going to get the girls to school and then I'm going to come and let them know that, that this is what happened. And
her explanations of innocence are falling on less than sympathetic ears as she goes on.
So why should we believe you, who's told us at least 2 or 3 sets of lies, and not Isaac, who the only time he's ever spoken about this has just regurgitated everything that happened?
you're right. I wouldn't blame you for not believing me. I had an affair and I regretted that affair, and I didn't know the type of person that he was. And I don't blame you for not believing me. I mean,
When he sent you messages about murdering your husband and asking you to assist him in that, why didn't you call the police?
because I didn't think it would really happen.
I want you to assume that every message you ever sent him, that we have the content of.
Okay.
We may not, but we may.
Okay.
And we don't have all of them yet. We're getting them in pieces.
I understand.
So just understand that when you're going back and forth with him and he's talking to you on Messenger and probably on the phone about leaving pills
I've
out,
never talked to him on the phone.
about leaving pills out.
Yes, sir. I didn't do it though.
And I'm not saying you did, because that's not how he died. But do I think that there was a plan? Yeah, I absolutely think there was a plan. Whether or not you took it serious or didn't, at some point in time, you did not convince him to not murder your husband.
I tried. I thought I had. I didn't know he was coming that night.
Finally, after a few more minutes of pointing out inconsistencies, they've had enough. The 2 investigators leave for a few minutes. They want to give Angel some time to herself, a chance for the weight of the situation to bear down on her. They return, and the local investigator from the sheriff's office makes a last personal appeal. Angel goes through the whole night again. This time, there's a different tone, one of resignation. From going out to dinner to meeting with Dylan and his girlfriend to coming home and binge-watching 3 episodes of the Game of Thrones, making love to her husband, and then getting up to get a snack.
I opened the door. He came in, yelling, screaming, all those things that I told you. Milton laid on the ground here. I got a shirt on and laid down over here. He took Milton into the bathroom. I heard some wrestling around. Then he told me to come in there. told me to lay down so he could take me up. Then he didn't. I was sitting up against the tub. I was screaming, I was crying, I was begging him to stop. He heard the TV. He was on top of Milton, heard the TV, went out, because he thought it was, he was like, is there any other kids home? I'm gonna kill him. Is there anybody upstairs? Blah, blah, blah. And then came back, and he was on Milton again, and I was still screaming and crying and telling him to get off, leave him alone, don't hurt him. And that's when he put the gun in my face and said, don't you know who this is? And I said no, and then he said, it's me. And I said, please stop, I don't want to be with you. I've made it clear by not picking up the phone, I've made it clear by not, telling you I'm not going to participate, that I'm not going to do any of these things, that my husband and I worked things out. And then he had me come out. He did in fact ask me where the jewelry was. He did in fact get a pillowcase and put the jewelry in it. He did in fact take all the money and the key. When after that he asked if he said, I'm gonna have to hit you. I said, I just want you to leave, I don't care, whatever you have to do. And then he said, well, I have to hit you because you have to stick to this story. If you don't stick to this story, then I'm gonna come back for you. You obviously can see that I'm capable of murder. I'm gonna come back and murder you and your kids. I did this for you, I did this for you. And I kept saying, you didn't do it for me because I'm not interested in being with you. That's why I didn't get the phone out when you bought it. This is why I stopped communicating with you. This is why I haven't seen you outside of anything. There's no sexual, no anything outside of the one time I saw him at Walmart. And then he taped my hands behind my back. I don't know if it was loose, I would assume to get my other hand out. He told me that to lay there and don't move. And he did come back for the pillow and wiped up something about his footprints. He did in fact come back for a phone that he dropped. The only thing that, was wrong and untruthful is that I knew who it was at that point in the bathroom. And then as soon as I realized he wasn't coming back, I had hoped that Milton was still okay. I went in there. Everything is true. I did push my body up against him. I did throw up, and I did get this one hand out, and it was pretty easy, but it was taped like this while I was laying flat on the ground, right on this side of the bed where Milton had originally been. And I didn't help move anything. I didn't tell him what to take. I didn't anything because I was still crying and I was bleeding and I was upset and I was terrified. But I did not conspire. I see how it looks that way because I didn't tell him. I said I wouldn't participate, but the fact that I didn't call the police immediately, I understand how it looks, and I don't blame you for.
So is this a true statement? He had this conversation with you prior to talking about wanting to use pills and make it look like an overdose.
Yes.
And that was his plan. That's what he wanted to do. I'm
And
assuming
I
the plan
wouldn't
did not
participate.
go according to that
Right,
night.
and I have to assume that because I didn't respond and I wouldn't do that he came, because he did say when he was freaking out and everything and I realized it was him, he said, I don't know what came over me, I don't know what came over me. You weren't talking to me and I freaked out because you're not talking to me and I didn't understand why you're not talking to me anymore. I didn't understand why you wouldn't go get the phone. I got this for you so we could communicate. And I said, I told you I didn't want to communicate. And he said, well, I lost it. I don't know why I lost it tonight. You didn't answer. You're not answering your messages. You're not talking to me. And I got worried and I came here and I don't know what came over me and I freaked out. Those were his words when he left.
And now the tale was out, and from here, the rest would have to happen in court. Everything would work its way out in court eventually. Isaac Melcher would make a plea deal to be sentenced to second-degree murder in the killing of Milton Sawyer. He would be given the maximum sentence of 25 years with a minimum of 20 years. Angel would not take a plea deal and instead went to trial on charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. After a 4-day trial in which Angel declined to testify, jurors returned a guilty verdict on both counts. She would be given a life sentence on the first-degree murder count and a maximum of 201 months for the conspiracy charge. She would file an appeal, but the judgment would later be upheld.